People want to work only in wool. Some people eschew any of the man-made fibers, which I think is really limiting, especially with new things constantly coming into production, like corn fiber, soy fiber, combinations, fibers made from seaweed. We don't know what's going to be made and in production 50 years from now. So I think to limit our artistic expression to a single fiber is detrimental to the art. I am a fiber artist. By that I mean I work with fibers to create artwork, fine artwork. Not all fiber art is done with looms or with things like crochet hooks or knitting needles. This can also be done, except for the pattern, using nothing but hands and feet. This is a technique that is called twining weave structures. There's plain weave, there's overshot, there's open weave, all kinds of combinations of patterns that are loom controlled in the weft. That's what I think takes this craft beyond the line and makes it art. There are many different kinds of looms. This mechanism is called a reed, which are called harnesses. It can do more complicated patterns than the 4 harness can. It's really old. We don't know how old. The yarn that is in the heddles will remain in the heddles, the remains of the old warp, with a secure square knot that creates nice even parallel lines in your weft. On the loom, in the pick, and I make 4 of them. The 4 create the twin. What the yarn is doing, this bright magenta, is going over and under various warps in the pattern and creating a very, very fine pattern in the fabric. A piece of artwork that will harken hopefully back to the late 50s and 60s. Not worried about straight selvages on this piece because it will be felt or viscose. Whatever the fiber is that's being worked with must be made, it must be manufactured. This is a rigid heddle loom. It only has 1 harness, and there's holes in the, is mounted through, like so. We have a front beam, we have a cloth beam where the finished fabric, the woven fabric is wound onto. We have a reed, and in this particular case we've got 24 harnesses and made exceedingly complicated patterns. The work on here right now is a sampler, and there's at least 5 different weavings on here, experimenting with the raising and lowering of the various harnesses is part of the computerization. Computerization is nothing new to the weaving world. Way back when, a few hundred years ago, there was a loom that was invented that's called a jacquard loom. It makes very, very complicated patterns of damask and brocades using silks, cottons, combinations thereof. There we go. I've got to get back. The painting hangs in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. This is the McCrae Gallery here on the campus of Western New Mexico University. It is a screen, very simple, plain weave. Another piece of plain weave. It is a rug. Very, very simple structure, but very effective structure. It's the same on front and back. I have used a double warp. That is 2 threads going through the same shed simultaneously. In the blue, the rose, and the green. That's why it's called Trio for Heather in 3 colors. Also a twill. It's made out of cotton. You can see the squares very easily. That is the weft comes through, out, and over, consequently overshot. This is my first adventure in alternative materials. I've got recycled plastic bags, copper wire, handmade paper, and normal cotton yarn. I've also got a little bit of gold wire worked into it, and the warp is all viscose. I wanted the words from the plastic bags to show up as an abstract form, and they can almost be made out in some areas, which is just fine. It creates a little bit of eye tease or eye candy for the weaving. I want people to experiment, which some are already, with alternative materials. I don't want people to be limited to wool or cotton or silk, bamboo, and some of the newer fibers. I want them to experiment with fiberglass, with viscose, which has been around quite a while, almost 100 years now. New things constantly coming into production, like corn fiber, soy fiber, combinations. Experiment and to learn what will work in what application. For example, it's very rare to mix wool and cotton in the same garment. It can be done, it doesn't always work. The same thing can be said with viscose or wire. It doesn't always work in combination with other things. And that's part of the experimental aspect, that's part of the growth aspect. We fiber artists, and artists in general, have to learn what works for what purpose in what circumstance. A willingness to explore, an acceptance of, well, this isn't working, so I want to try something else. Serendipity is a wonderful thing, and unless a student, an instructor, an artist, experiments, there won't be the learning process. In fiber arts, there is no limit, because we don't know what's going to come down the road in 50, 60 years.